This is 10x Recruiting, a podcast from MetaView. Let's get after it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Temu, TBPN. 10x Recruiting with me and Siadhal. What's up,
We've got to do one of
Siadhal?
those shouts. We've got to shout at the camera like those guys do.
Oh, too good, man. How are you, Sal?
Excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay, so I was triggered today by Zapier's CEO.
Again. Bloody hell, man.
Look, man, I operate on emotion. And, he said that he does 20 references for every hire. And then basically had kind of some interesting questions underneath, which we'll get into here. But I want to talk about references because I feel like they're under discussed and how to do them really well. So let's just first start with you. Sal, you're doing a ton of recruiting right now. Are you doing 20 references per hire?
To be clear, he says per exec hire, which I think is a very important distinction, right? You agree?
I don't know. I feel maybe. Are you doing references, Sile? And how many are you doing?
So we do more two to three, maybe more in the 3 to 5 range for what I call leadership hires. So definitely nowhere near 20. I wouldn't say I've thought about this a ton, but this has come up repeatedly over my, let's say, time as a founder, where you hear this a lot from former CEOs, investors, this sort of thing. My overall, I guess we're going to dive into it, but basically it's very easy for someone like the CEO of Zapier to get someone on a call to give a reference. I actually first heard this from Reid Hoffman. He was saying in this large audience with Reid Hoffman, and he was saying how important actually the main thing is references. Yeah, dude, everyone's going to pick up the call to you, and they're probably going to choose to be seen as sort of worthy in your eyes over their buddy because you're so influential, and it's just not true for most people. So I think basically there's a lot that goes into. For some people, I think it makes a ton of sense. I think everyone should do it, and you should have a good script for getting the truth out of these people that you're running, who you're the referees. But it's a different world if you're Reid Hoffman or Wade Foster or whoever it is. You're going to have better data if you're that person.
Okay. So let's align. Me and you both agree. You must do references for every hire. It is, in my opinion, the highest signal aspect of the interview process. Do you agree with that?
I do not.
Oh, say more.
Again, if you're talking about are you going to reference the referee to see, does this person know what they're talking about? You've spent, let's say, 5 to 6 hours or more with the candidate you're trying to hire. You then get a referee. You hardly know this person, and you're going to index very heavily around what they say about this candidate, even though they could be terrible. If they were through your interview process, you could have rejected them on first sight.
So maybe the reason why I think that is because I am taking the data from the rest of the interview process that we've already run and using the pros and cons of what we have found independently to then vet that with the person we're on the phone with. And that's why I think it's high signal, right? It's hey, I'm asking open-ended questions, and then, which we'll get into how to run these in a minute. But that's why I think it's the highest signal aspect, is because it's not just a random dot on the dartboard. It's no. I'm using this as part of the holistic picture on the candidate to inform more data.
So what you're saying there makes it sound like one version of it is I use the reference to almost verify this picture I have of the candidate, and it's a very strong signal of whether my picture of them is correct. Whereas when I hear you say it's the most important data, I can't remember exactly what you said. That to me, I guess it depends on the script, right? If I'm just turning up and saying, "Hey, what do you think of this person?" They're dog shit. Well, I'm going to say, "Oh, okay, cool. I won't hire them then." That the person I'm speaking to could be terrible, so I'm not going to. So I think a lot of it depends on what you're asking, and if you're trying to, if you could do a thorough enough reference to understand how did this person actually work with the person you're looking to hire, how proximate were they, and then actually coming with a thesis on this person that you're not presenting as a thesis, but you're asking questions that essentially help you build better informed thesis. I can sort of get with that. But even then I would still really question, I would still really question whether, if you've spent a good amount of time with that candidate, if I have a doubt on the candidate, and that could get definitely proven out by a reference. But if I don't have any of those doubts, and then sort of I hear sort of a counterpoint from this referee, I'm not going to over-index around that. I might try and then investigate that thing with other references or with the candidate again or something like that. But I don't think I would weight it more highly than other things that I've learned from the candidate directly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's what we agree on is you must run references for every hire. We also agree that they're high signal, and I think we actually will ultimately get to the highest signal. And I think I'm going to win you on this point eventually. Let's talk about how do you do them. So walk me through your process, and then I'll walk the audience through mine.
Yeah. Oh God, I feel like a sucker for going first because I know yours is going to be like some masterful thing. But
Sorry,
I do have another
about
question for you,
this.
by the way, which is like I always get pushed by exec search firms for them to do the references for me. I'm like, what is the point? Like,
Oh my God, never. Are
No,
you kidding
I know.
me?
But obviously that is part of what you do now. So my process is I initially literally start with, hey, can you just explain some, I usually set up the call. Hey, let me actually set some additional, throw another sort of like thing out there. I feel that part of my job in doing a reference is also selling, because these people often are people who know the candidate. And if they have not decided that they're joining me yet, I actually I need this person to go and say to the candidate I'm trying to hire, hey, Sal seemed great. Like, you should definitely join that company. So that's like one thing. So I usually set it up as, hey, listen, met person Y, and think they're amazing for this and this reason. I just want to make sure I'm creating an environment here that's going to get the best out of them. So I want to just make sure I know what that environment is that really sees them do their best work. And then I say, so just to start off, can you take me through how you how the capacity of how you worked with this person? They usually totally misinterpret that question and just kick off with how much they love that person.
I totally agree.
It's just like to get the ball rolling. That's what I start with. And then I have like a few things that I pick up on that are quite candidate specific. And then I usually end with, if you get a call from this person in 6 months time and they say, hey, thanks for doing that reference with Sile, it ended up not working out. What do you think the most likely reason for that would be? If you had to guess now, what do you think the reason it wouldn't work out would be? And it can't be that the company failed. It has to be like something to do with it, like not being a good fit. What do you think that would be? And so that's usually pretty revealing. Depending on the relationship, almost like how much I'm in sales mode, to be honest with you, I will sometimes also ask, basically, where do you rate this person of all the people you've worked with? And there's some like clever things I've tried and had different levels of success with. Sometimes I just ask it like that. And you obviously want to hear them say like top decile, top 10%, top 5%, top 1%, something like that. Sometimes it's interesting. You can say, hey, where'd you rate this person? Would you put them in the top half of the people you've worked with? And obviously at that point you want to say, fucking hell, yes, top half, of course, more like this, or if they just go, if you give them that, that you think top half is okay, and they just go, yeah, probably top half, then obviously, you've probably got a dub. So yeah, that's my play.
Okay. I have a slightly different view on these things. So I actually first start with the candidate. And I think it's really important. Everyone skips past this, but I think a great candidate experience starts with like this holistic, like this is how we're going to do stuff, right? This is generally like all the things that are going to take part in this process. And I always include in the beginning references. And I say front door references, which means you're giving me references, and backdoor references, which means I'm going to go ask people. And I always explain to them why, which is just like, look, ultimately, we want to be able to figure out if this is the best fit for both sides. And this is a very important, if not one of the most important data points. And I give them the opportunity at that point in time to tell me, is there anybody we shouldn't be reaching out to once this process kicks off? So I start with that. When I'm on the phone with they call it a front door reference, different than a back door. I think we got to talk about that separately. This is generally my talk track, which is my goal is to make sure that we are finding the best fit for both the company and the candidate. And it's not like, let's just shove the square peg into the round hole. I think like a lot of references like have that on the way in. It's like, I want to find this like outside of like where you live, who you marry, what you do for work is the most important thing. And so I try and always anchor with people on that. But to your point, they're generally very much in sell mode already. And so I'm trying to actually talk them out of that. The other thing I tell them is like, look, we're likely going to extend an offer here. That's why I'm on the phone with you. I do this at the end of the process. And so if we want this to work, right, long term, the more truthful you can be with me, the better off it will be as I manage this person versus me having to uncover it and then like have really tough conversations. So it's just like, for all intents and purposes, be as honest as possible. So I start there. Then I get into essentially like, what do you think this person is uniquely good at? I ask them for what they think are areas for development. I ask them the percentile of where this person stack ranks compared to everyone else. And then I say, what's the difference between that and then typically like the best person? That's a very revealing question. I find that oftentimes in reference calls, it's not the like everyone asks kind of the same style of question, but how you ask it really matters for a human to be honest with you. And so that's super helpful. And then I do the same one as you, which is if I saw you at a party a year from now and told you it didn't work out, why do you think that would be? And then what I'm really looking for is like,
Can I just,
like,
it's supposed to interrupt
go ahead.
you, but I think that's so, there's something really, I'm going to use the word exquisite about the way you phrase the question there of if I saw you at a party, because there's like a behavioral economics, like, hey, there's a chance I'm going to see you at a party, by the way. So, you know, do you know what I mean? Like you're
That's
actually
what I
seeding
mean.
that. Yeah, exactly. It's cool.
That's what it's everyone asks the same kinds of questions.
Yeah.
But having that sort of like little bit of a side angle on it, which is like, hey, we know each other now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see you somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask you, like, you blew it with me on this thing. Like, what happened here? It just changes you're trying to change the human dynamic away from the standard, like, oh yeah, like I gotta go pimp my friend again because I'm doing the references. So the last thing I'll mention on this topic is like what I'm really looking for is people like pounding the table. And specifically, my favorite thing that I hear is like, I guess another question I'll ask is like, you know, if you were hiring right now, would you hire this person again? And I love the like, oh my God, actually, like I have a role, and I just talked to somebody yesterday. It's like, I have a role in mind 6 months from now. And so if you don't hire him, I will. Like, I love shit like that because it's so indicative of how they actually feel about the person versus the typical stated preferences that you get in all these things.
But going back to the initial point that was made around 20 references, and it sounds like this was for exec hires. What's your take on how? Because I think what you're describing is quite senior hire pilled. Do you know what I mean? Like saying that you're not going to see 25-year-old engineer at a party, right? They're not going to believe that doesn't work for them. Not you.
I disagree. I disagree.
Not you. You're not hanging out those parties. Come on,
bro. You got to hang with the young kids, man. I'm doing everything. I'm very intentional about this, but keep going.
And also, it's left my way. There's a few things that you've said that I feel like a little bit more sort of you'd expect to get good data on more of like a tenured hire versus like an earlier career one.
Let's start with the number. So saying I do 20 references for every exec I hire is founder porn. Founders love saying shit like this. And ultimately what you're really looking for is intimate knowledge from someone who has direct work experience with the person. And if you can get 3 to 7 of those, incredible. Right? Like it's incredible. This is not like a proctology exam, right? Like we're not going to find every wart on this person's body, but we want to know like just directionally, like is what we're learning in the interview process matching up with, what we're hearing from references. So I actually think that's generally true for all hires. A combination again of front and backdoor references, I would do 3 to 7 for everybody.
And at DoorDash, what did you do?
So this is an intimate question. The honest to God truth was with execs. I knew Tony would start referencing the moment that the candidate got introduced to us. And so the first thing I would do is I would call that candidate and I would say, this is how I got to this. Like, hey, we're going to do this as part of tell me right now if there's anybody we shouldn't reach out to. And then I would tell him, Tony's going to start pretty soon. It's just the way that he does business, right? Like, just be prepared for that. So Tony would start doing it right away, and he would start using that to fill in his mental model of the person and using the references to ask questions during the interview.
Yeah. From trusted people. I think that's the key. If it's people that he trusted, right?
Yeah. But like mostly, we definitely crossed a few lines, and I think like that's where growth happens. But yes, that's how you should do it. And we had many of those conversations. But it would start in the beginning, then we would ask them. So then the next thing I want to hit on with you is back channel references. Then this is the point. These are the most delicate pings I think, in the recruiting process and can really screw somebody over. And I have seen founders, hiring managers, and recruiters be incredibly cavalier when conducting back channel references. And so that's why for me, I'm super sensitive about this topic is like most of these people we're talking about have jobs. And so if you're going and reaching out to their current place of business and, like 98% of people haven't told their manager and all of a sudden it gets back to that person, you have really put damage like onto this person and their career. So I think back channels, they should happen, but you need to give people the heads up and you should ask them who we should avoid and then ask why, right? Because maybe there is something weird there that we should try and click into. But oftentimes I find with back channels, like with the most revealing part is when you just ask the candidate, like, who should we not reach out to? And then why? And they're going to tell you.
And you don't reach out to those people, obviously?
No. We still reach out, but I do not touch the people who they say not to touch. I think there are orthogonal ways to get in touch with and to get data on like, this is where like having a good network is really important. Because like if they say, don't ping anybody at my current employer, okay, could I think about like reaching out to an investor and asking who the best salesperson is at the company, right? There's other ways to like get information on people that isn't directly through the front door.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, back channels on my side, it tends to be not as like basically executives always, or like leadership hires always, and then if the candidate we're hiring into an IC role is like in our essentially like a couple of concentric circles away from like my personal network, then obviously we will. But if it's like we don't like sweat it to make sure we get those back channel references on every single hire. No, I think this comes down a little bit actually to how fearful should one be of false positives as well.
You're right. Yeah, we have had that discussion. I totally agree. I mean, with execs, it's a big deal, right? Because like if you get that wrong, we're talking months. We're talking they're hiring a team and stuff. And so, Siadhal, you'd mentioned like exec recruiters want to do these references for you. Are you doing them all on your own? I think it should be non-negotiable that the hiring manager is doing this, regardless of the level, because ultimately, like they're going to have to live with the outcome. And outsourcing here feels lazy.
Yeah, totally. And I also think like I legitimately go into the references with a dual motivation. One is to get data on whether I truly want to hire this person, and then the other is get data that if I do hire them gives me the ability to create an environment that they do great work in. Whereas a recruiter is not thinking that, especially an external recruiter.
Yeah. And then very, very last piece, which is how can people use MetaView, right, to inform reference questions?
Yes, a big thing. So I'll answer it directly to start. So MetaView customers will have, let's say, 5, 6, 8, 10 hours of data per candidate they might end up referencing, right? Conversational data. And you also have a bunch of other collateral in your recruiting systems, maybe the job description or the rubric for the hire or the intake call you had with the hiring manager initially. And all of that is almost like it's almost the, you want to come out of the interview process understanding how fully do we understand this person, given the things we set out to understand. And you can use MetaView to essentially identify the gaps between those things. So of everything we know about the candidate, does it satisfy do we know everything about what we said the job requirements were on the job description or the rubric? And if we don't, what are the gaps? And if so, you can use those gaps to fill in via the reference calls. And then of course, the reference call data is automatically populated into MetaView as well. So you can see, you literally can start to fill those gaps in. So it's actually
same is true for things that have gone well during the interview process and things that, right? We can pull that stuff out too by asking it.
Yeah, totally. So it's basically the headline is, I don't want to be, again, maybe too theoretical, but one of the things that I really try and push on people to understand that AI is amazing at, and that you as a human are doing all the time, whether just not very well without you realizing, is making the most of unstructured data and recognizing patterns very quickly within that unstructured data, which humans are better than any other animal at, obviously, but it's still not that good. And so recognizing hey, we have all this information on the candidate, but not these one or two things here. When you're talking about 8 hours of audio and, 10 pages of documentation, that's very hard for a human to realize, but actually AI can do very accurately, very easily. And that, it's just a great way to sort of like think about how you orient your references as well.
Cool. Totally agree. All right. Well, we did not cover everything on references because this topic I could probably spend 5 hours on. So let us know what you guys ask in the comments. Let us know like how you do these things. Ultimately, like what we're trying to build here is something to where people can learn from each other. So let us know how you guys are deploying references in your companies.